Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dark Academia live show. So this has been a really, really long time coming. Angela, pointing the wrong way. Angela and I have been buddy reading Dark Academia books for the last year. We've hit our 1 year mark in October. So we are now doing that. Sorry, I'm going to turn off the AC because that does not need to be on right now. I don't know what's going on.
Can't hear it that much, so if you need it on,
it just doesn't need to be on because it doesn't need to be that cold in my house.
I'm jealous. I don't have air conditioning.
Oh, my house has really good air conditioning. It's so nice. But 1 year since we started doing these Dark Academia buddy reads, and we've read quite a few. We've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
All but one here.
Yes, I have my stack too.
Yes. Oh, your Bible is so pretty.
You want to see it?
Yes, please. Was this outright?
This one is the Fairy Loot one.
Oh, wow.
So this is the Fairy Loot Babel.
Is that gold?
Yes.
That's so cool.
And then this is the sprayed edge.
Get out of here.
Yeah, like not the most gorgeous thing. Hello, welcome. And then
this is honestly probably the most gorgeous. All of the editions. Oh, can I see what they look like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, that's how I've been picturing them.
Yep,
is there of them too? The guys?
Yeah, there is. It's on the back.
Oh my gosh. I don't think there's a more beautiful book in any edition. They're all so pretty.
So pretty. And there's our guys.
I love it. That's really cool to have those pictures on there too.
I love it. So pretty.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna get that back on. There we go. But yeah, so I love this edition. I like the Illumicrate edition too. I feel like this book just has so many gorgeous editions.
I have two because I bought the one from Waterstones that she signed and has like the black sprayed edges because I just love that cover. It's the same as yours, but different. Mm-hmm. But then I wanted to write in the book. And so I bought just the regular Barnes & Noble edition so that I could just go through and I just like wrote all up in this thing.
Oh my gosh.
Fun. It was I'm not done with it yet. I'm almost done. But it's been so much fun writing in the book and like highlighting important things and dog-earing pages. And it's been really good. So I like that. I recommend.
Just having a book that you don't mind if you mess up.
No, because I was not about to do that to the Waterstones edition.
No. I ordered the I think it's the Barnes & Noble edition of, sorry, I'm jumping too different because we got onto editions of the Atlas Paradox.
Oh, isn't that one gold? Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to go with that because I feel like it'll be nice to like have a gold one because I got the Fairy Loot edition of that one as well. But then the Atlas Paradox sold out so fast that like I didn't get it in the morning because I was like, I won't wake up for it. I know that they'll save enough copies for people who got like, because they did the pre-sale for people who had got the first one, but it sold out. I was like, okay.
See, don't you have a black and gold bookshelf that you film in front of? Mm-hmm. Like that'll fit there.
Yeah.
Well, yours mostly black, but still that would look good.
Yeah. I put some of the gold stuff on there. It's just there aren't many books that are like all gold.
Yeah. That's a good one. I'm excited. I did buy the new edition, but my favorite is actually this one. I like this one a lot.
I do like it. I think it's really good. I'm interested too because I was going to reread it because they made some changes. So
yeah, we need to, well, maybe if you want to count that as a Dark Academia sometime, we both need to reread that and then read Atlas Paradox.
Read Atlas Paradox. Yeah, we should. I was thinking of doing it in November, so.
Oh,
maybe
because honestly, as we're talking about Dark Academia and we're sitting down today, like I really liked this one a lot.
I know, me too. I feel like I loved it in the moment, but like even the further I get away from it, I'm like, you know what? That was a good one. Like it was really good. So, speaking of, we
Yeah.
are going to chat about the books, chat about dark academia in general, but I thought we'd kind of start off by doing a little bit of ranking of the books. So, our stacks, I went through what we have. So, we have the Atlas 6, The Secret History, If We Were Villains, Plain Bad Heroines, Babel, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and They Never Learn. So, we have 7 dark academia books, and I thought we would kind of talk about what ones do certain things well and our feelings about those, because Angela and I have talked about there's so many aspects of dark academia that some books do some really well and other books do other ones really well, and so we thought we would kind of rank how these books do in different aspects and then talk about like our favorites just overall in general.
And we're not doing spoilers yet, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
No spoilers yet.
No spoilers.
But I feel like we'll definitely get into spoilers later. So. But not of Babel because you're not done.
The end of Babel. I'm pretty far though. I not the very end, but I do have a lot of sticky notes. All of these stickies are dark academia talking points. So if we ever talk about Babel, I have a lot of thoughts about it in regards to the genre. So okay. I'm excited.
I like it. Welcome. What are we reading? We are well, Angela's reading Babel, and we're talking about all of our dark academia books that we have read. It feels like it's a fall vibe, right?
What are you reading right now?
Me?
Yeah, I'm reading Babel, as you said. What are you reading?
Babel. I am reading Lachlan's by Robert Jackson Bennett. It's the 3rd book in the Founders trilogy. The first one's Founders Guide.
That's what I have that. I think that's going to be, I know you said you like it a lot, so that's going to be.
I thought it was amazing.
Sounds unique. The magic
system. And I love his writing style, so I would highly recommend it. I think you would like it.
Yes.
Okay, so I thought that the first thing we should rate on is atmosphere, because I feel like atmosphere is just one of the most important things in dark academia books, honestly. Like, if you don't nail the atmosphere, like the rest of it, you have to get the atmosphere right, I feel like.
Follow-up question though. Do you mean specifically academia atmosphere or any atmosphere? Because like this wasn't quite full academia atmosphere, but it had good atmosphere.
I think
academia, maybe?
Dark academia atmosphere. Okay. Like, it has to actually be the dark academia atmosphere. But you can mention, if you want to, like, honorable mention for having a great atmosphere that isn't technically dark academia.
I mean, honestly, I think that if you're hitting academia, no book I have ever read tops this for academia. Like, I'm tired just reading about them doing all these assignments. Like as in, it sounds exhausting. Like, the amount of work that they do, like, they are academics for sure.
Yes.
So I think Babel has like a strong university atmosphere. What about you?
I think for me, I think my least favorite on the atmosphere is probably this In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. I would say this is my least favorite on atmosphere. I just don't think they nailed it well. I think a lot of it seemed very like immature and not really what I was going for with it. I think sadly this one would have to come in as second to last, just because, like you said, it doesn't give the dark academia atmosphere, really. Like, it gives a great kind of gothic atmosphere.
Right. Yeah. Spooky atmosphere, like peak, like think of like a foggy, all of that stuff it gives. But yeah, I agree, not university.
It doesn't give dark academia. Even I feel like the past's atmosphere is like way better than the present's, though. The present is just like meh.
Honestly, I almost wish these were broken up into 2 different books, because I like them both on their own, but like I didn't feel like they meshed well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the past should have just been its own thing because it was so good. I think the next one would probably be They Never Learn. I really do enjoy it, but I think a lot of the like academia atmosphere was lost when we were following the teacher, in all honesty, just because it wasn't as much about the academia. It was like about people.
Honestly, I feel like that one and In My Dreams I Hold a Knife can almost not be Dark Academia. I feel like they are
Oh.
thrillers that happen to take place at a university.
Mm-hmm.
And like the
I
whole
agree.
point of it is the thriller and not the academics at all. Cause like I don't hardly recall in My Dreams I Hold a Knife or They Never Learn. There's like hardly ever
School
academia,
mentioned.
like
Yeah.
like hardly ever. But they were thrillers at a university. So
Yeah.
those are like iffy if they are the same.
I agree. I really enjoyed They Never Learn, but
Oh yeah.
it wasn't the same Dark
Okay,
Academia.
dude. I loved this one. I loved In My Dreams I Hold a Knife.
I hated that one so much.
You
Read it that
hated
one.
it?
I
Okay, we'll
hated
talk about
it.
it. I thought it was a great time. But see, I never watched. I know you said Pretty Little Liars. I never watched that show or anything like that, so I had no frame of reference for like what it's like. I just read it. I was like,
Felt
this
like
is fun. This is fun.
that. Well, I mean, that is Pretty Little Liars. It was just like fun and corny, but
This
after
is hard
that,
now. Where would you go? Because they're all pretty.
I know after that they're so good. Honestly, I feel like this one probably comes next just because it is a different type of academia. Like it's
Yeah.
more it's about them like learning and discovering and those types of things, but it doesn't feel quite as university academia setting, I would say. Even though I absolutely love the atmosphere of this book,
It's
it
definitely more fantasy.
yes, and I love that. Like
But
I thought,
also quite psychological, right?
yeah, it
Like the
is.
first,
It's
well,
like
I don't
very
know
much
about
in your head.
the rewrites, but this one was
Yeah.
very much like in all of their heads. I thought that was so
Mhm.
interesting. You were just in
I
their mind.
loved it. I agree. And then I think these two are pretty equal, honestly.
Yeah,
I know people like they're not the same. They're the same book. Like they are. Like they're
pretty much
so the
the
same. I love them both. I'm not saying anything bad against it, but like they're
same. Yeah.
so similar. And so I think that honestly, this one is too. Like these three all have very, very similar dark academia aspects to them, I think.
Can I say the thing about Babel that blows my mind that is so
Yeah.
different?
Mm-hmm.
So this is not a spoiler, like this is the genre of dark academia. Most of the books start out with you knowing that like someone is murdered. And it like that's usually from page 1. It's like, hey, someone was murdered, who did it? You're going to go back in time and unravel it all, right? Not Babel at all. Like not at all.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. And I was like very surprised because I'm following I heard Mara, I can't remember her. I'll have to look up what her name is. She had just done a wrap up of Babel and she described it as like a Dickensian coming of age story. And I'm like, that's so true, actually. It's like The Great
Mm-hmm.
Expectations by Dickens and stuff. And I'm just like, it's almost like it is dark academia for sure, but it feels like a very different brand of dark academia to me than the
Yeah.
others. Oh, her name, her Mara's screen name is Books Like Whoa. Ugh, like I thought that was such a great way to put it. It very much is like a coming of age story at a university with a lot of other things that go on. So it was quite different from If We Were Villains and The Secret History, but yet so similar at the same time.
Yeah, I
How
think their academia vibes are very similar. Like the way they do the university and how especially how specialized these students are. I think that's a big part of it is they're so niche and they
Mhm.
have their little band of niche people who are with them. And
Yeah.
so I think that is one of the things that makes them feel so similar because they do that where like in this one they're very niche because they're the translators, right? They're very focused on all languages. And then we have this one where they are the Greek people, right? They're the
What were they again? I have to reread this because I have forgotten so much that happens.
well
What were
that's
they? Studied Greek?
they study Greek. Yeah,
Okay.
like they're just
Mhm.
very Greek focused. And then
Right.
this one they are all about Shakespeare.
Right.
So like
So
they
shit.
all are very niche. Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that makes their vibes feel so similar is that very niche university. You have your little group that you were pretty much thrown in with. Like this group was made for you and you made them your whole world type aspect to it.
And that would actually set this apart because this is like
Yeah.
the opposite. They're not supposed to be all besties.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's actually one thing that is different about this when you were talking about how in dark academia it's very common to know someone died and we're trying to figure out what happened. In this one, that's not how it
Mhm.
goes. Like you're going into it with very different expectations. So I think it does it in a like it puts a good twist on it, in my opinion. So is
I
that your
agree.
cat? Are they
Yeah.
outside in the window?
No, that's her reflection. I don't know which way to turn it. She's just chilling on the cat tree.
Oh, so
Here, I'll angle it towards her because she's the star.
oh my
Yeah,
god.
I would agree. I definitely I think as you said, these two are by far the most similar of all
Yeah.
of those that we've read so far. But also they're so different. I almost feel like this reads more I don't even want to say young adult because I don't know if that's true. It just doesn't get as like
Pretentious.
dark, yeah, pretentious. I don't know. Some of the Shakespeare's real pretentious.
Oh, the Shakespeare.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, but this one is pretty. Some of the stuff that happens and some of the
Oh,
things that
it's
the
messed
you're like,
up.
okay, guys. Yeah. I would say that If We Were Villains is definitely a
It tones
softer
it down.
version of that. Like it's not
Yeah.
as but they're still both so good and so similar.
Yeah. I wish I had read any of these books.
Oh no.
Well, now you'll have some good recommendations for Dark Academia because we're going to talk about what we liked from each of the books and what we didn't like and which ones we recommend the most. Which,
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly,
Characters. What do you
I
think about
really like
characters?
all of these.
Oh, I like most of these.
Okay, you said characters?
Characters
Like
because
most
I mean I feel like Dark Academia very much needs to
hmm,
have characters that you don't necessarily have to like them, but you have to be very invested in what's going on in what they're doing. Like you need characters that have something that causes an emotion from your reader, whether it's like
yeah.
disgust or the creepy vibe or you're invested or you're just like right. Like you need some
Sort of
sort
like
of
disgust.
right. It's so true though, but I think that's one of like a great thing about it is it elicits so much emotion from you where you're like, holy cow, these people are like so messed up. So
I would say, are we doing least to favorite or are we just saying our
I like
favorite?
to start at the bottom. I don't know. I just kind of like to say which ones I don't prefer and then like go up the chain to which ones that I think just nailed it. For me,
And these
again, I think this
are
is going to
likable
be one of the
characters,
bottoms.
right? These are
No,
just
it's just like
memorable
what
characters.
characters you think are just done so well. Where like these are just insanely well written characters, whether they're hated characters, loved characters. Like I think this one's at the bottom again. I feel like I wasn't invested in the atmosphere or the characters. I just wanted to like read for the like plot. You know, this one was more of a plot thriller.
Honestly, I think this time I might disagree, but I don't have anything to put beneath it because I liked all of the character like because I agree. I thought that a lot of the characters in that like it could have gone further, but I really liked how in depth you got with the main character and like how you start to unravel her mind and unravel like what actually happened. I don't really have a lot of complaints, but like I would honestly probably I enjoyed the characters in both of these, but I'd probably tie these for the
Yeah,
lead. Like,
this
I
was gonna be my next
liked
one.
these characters too. I liked them all. I really did enjoy the characters. But like I mean, okay, I'm not gonna lie. Besides Robin, I feel like she could have fleshed out the rest of them a
Oh
lot.
my gosh. This was my next wait, actually, I think my next one might have been I think this one was my next one, and then the They Never
Oh,
Learn.
I'm so relieved that you agree with me. Oh wait, I forgot about They Never Learn.
I think I would put They Never Learn kind of around the same as this. Like it because of the thriller aspect, I feel like a lot of times thrillers for me don't get me as invested as in the characters because I'm invested in the thriller.
Yeah.
But I agree on this one. I didn't really care about the characters that much. Like
I
Robin, I felt like we got into him a lot, but the other ones, it was more being told rather than making those feelings develop based on what's happening in the book.
And this is such a long book. And it goes through all of the years of them at college. And I'm just like, we've been with them for years and I know next to nothing about them. Yeah. And then I compare that to like If We Were Villains and the Atlas Six, those books weren't as long. And yet I'm like, I feel like I know those characters so much more. Yeah. And this one's like almost 500 and something pages. And I'm like, I don't really feel like there was enough time in the front end invested in the rest of the group that I was like, I honestly kind of have to rank this a little low on the characters one.
I agree. Oh, I mean, the cat is the star, let's be honest.
Yeah, like, I don't know what to tell you. She's the star. Yeah. She's just staring pensively out the window. What do you see? Yeah.
Oh, hi, pretty kitty.
She's got a green eye and a blue eye.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
She's a mutant.
But yeah, I think we should talk a little bit about the characters in Babel a little bit more later because I agree on this. Yes. And I think that it might be an unpopular opinion. I'm glad you agree with me though, because when I was reading it, I was like, I feel like I should be more invested in these characters than I am. And I think that was part of my problem with reading it.
Yeah. I think that's why we do good buddy reading, because we tend to have a lot of similar thoughts about books.
So true.
I don't know. I just was like, I wanted more out of that one. So I would have to say, yeah, I would put maybe these two tied at the bottom with the caveat that I did really like the characters. And then maybe this one. And then what? We have... Oh, and then we have They Never Learn.
These three are left. Ew, I have to show them. So we have If We Were Villains, the Atlas Six, and Secret History. I think I'm gonna do If We Were Villains next.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have a different order this time because I'm gonna put this one next for me.
I think part of my thing with this one is we had so many characters. I think we had 6 main characters, and I would forget about a couple of them. Like, I'm like, wait, what do we need to remember about this person? So I think that was part of my thing. And I also think that the Shakespeare, like them being obsessive about Shakespeare and quoting them constantly, kind of just like irked me with the characters. And so I was like, I hate you just for that annoying personality trait.
I get that. A lot of people say that. Me, like my personality with people that I'm close to is we just constantly quote things like movies.
I do that too, so I don't know why.
I don't know. I guess I'm just like an Uber nerd, but I was like, I felt like it was a bit much, but I could totally see if you were in that vibe and you like that was what you lived and breathed. Like I was like,
I see it. I just still found it like just annoying. Yeah, and I don't know, and I feel like that kind of didn't help with me getting to know them as well because I didn't get those quotes for the majority of it. Like I knew some of them and I knew the plays, like the stories in general, but I feel like I'm not deep enough into Shakespeare to really get what they're saying because I feel like the way people talk and what they say plays a lot into their character development. Yeah. And not understanding Shakespeare well enough, I think affected my ability to really bond with these characters because I don't know, like I didn't get what they were saying some of the time.
See, I was geeking out because I started off in high school not understanding Shakespeare at all. Never. I was like, I have no idea what the deal is. And then I got one of the No Fear Shakespeare books where they have on the other side, like what it would be in modern day language for the most part. And then I took some like English classes where we like delved into it and talked about how funny it is and like all the little references and jokes. And then it almost became like another language. Like it was so interesting to see how he played with words and what all the meanings were. And so then as I got older, now I have such a bigger appreciation for it. So for me, I was kind of like nerding out a little bit. I was like,
oh yeah. Like if you're into Shakespeare, I'm sure that stuff is phenomenal. I've never really liked Shakespeare. I'm going to be honest. It's not my thing. I don't like opera. I don't like Shakespeare. Like I've just never been in that vibe. And so I just like, that's an aspect that if you're into Shakespeare though, that would probably be one of your favorite dark academia books because it does it very well. I've heard that the author like does it extremely well.
Yeah. I feel like it would need to be like how my situation was where you took a class or something where you all talked about it in depth and learned about it. Because like on your own, that would, I mean, I'm sure some people do, but man, I didn't understand it on my own.
I definitely need to like do some sort of online learning of it to really get it. Because like you said, it's very nuanced. And I did, like, we read Macbeth in school and we went into like kind of dove into it and stuff. And it was fine. It's like I can understand it when I read it. I just don't love it. I don't have that love for Shakespeare, you know.
And my choice of this one as my like third from the top is because like I cannot deny that like the character work was so good and they were just like the most pretentious people ever. But my problem was there was like nothing likable about them. Like to me, like I didn't think that there was any redeeming qualities that made me root for them. I wanted all of them to end up in jail. I was like, I hope you guys go down. Like for me, that was the hard part, which was good. That's why it's so high up. I put it even higher than Babel because I'm like, yes, there was so much more character work done in this. But I was like, I like a bit more nuance to my characters, like a little more personalities where like maybe I can find one thing that I can make them tolerable for me, you know? But this one was rough. This one was
Yay, no Shakespeare. I actually am putting that next because I do agree that they were all just horrible. And I think that that shows how good the author is. Like, it doesn't mean you're going to enjoy it. Like, some people hate unlikable characters, and I would say do not read this book if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not for you. But the author did so well with it. Yeah. Like, she made these characters they're disturbing, and they elicit I feel like though, like they bring out so much emotion. Like the whole time I'm just like, oh my gosh, these people are so messed up. I have to keep reading.
So bad. Yeah, and I wanted more. Like I wanted to hear like a reason for all of their terribleness, and that's not what I ever got.
No,
that's
they're just terrible people.
They're just terrible people.
And okay, what's your next one?
Oh, you're really twisting my arm here because like this is one of my favorite books of all time, but we're talking about character work, right?
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to have to probably say this one as my next one.
So are both our top ones this one?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
So good.
So good. Like, I guess it's really hard to not think that it's such good character work when you're like in their heads. But
and I really love how their magic influences their characters as well. Like really digging into how what magic they're good with affects how their characters are and how they see the world is so interesting, because some of them are really messed up. But when you're like, well, this is their magical ability, you're like, I can kind of see it. Like, you're still messed up. Like, I get it.
But I get it. Yeah. And yeah, they were so unique. Like all of them are so different. Yeah. I just thought that this one's so good. I'm looking through here because I know in this edition they've got like the pictures of the characters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they have it in the other one too. Actually, I just went to the bookstore yesterday and I flipped through, and they have it in the new edition as well.
Do you want to hear something devastating?
Yeah.
Devastating. I ordered that new edition of the Atlas 6, right? In the new version of it. I ordered it from Target when they had one of their buy one get one 50% offs, and the box that it came in was very thick because I had gotten a couple of books. And so you know how usually there's like an air thing or something like that to make sure that they don't pop around. Yeah. So I used the knife to cut it.
You cut your book.
I cut the whole back of the dust jacket. There's a slit all the way through the back. And I'm like, I can't return that. So now my new Atlas 6 has a line all the way down the back.
I feel so bad for you.
It's honestly heartbreaking, but I'll survive. I can't return that. I'm like, that was my fault. But like, how was I going to open the box otherwise? Like, I was just trying to open the box.
Like that. You always put something on top of the books. You always do that.
It was flat against the back to the point where
Amazon does that. Like, come on. If Amazon is packing their bags better than you, like, come on. That's
Target. Get it together.
Amazon should not be doing better than anyone.
Yeah. Okay, we don't need to watch you lick yourself, ma'am. Thanks.
So
oh no, she's getting hyper. You know when cats like start to tweak out.
Yeah.
She's like getting hyper.
Oh my gosh, I love her just like looking at us.
She's like, are you excited about Dark Academia too? Anyway, yeah, I was so heartbroken, and I know you're a big fan of like preserving books, so I knew
Oh
that
my
would break.
gosh, yes. I have an obsession. It's fine.
Yeah, I think this one was the best characters, definitely.
I think so too. I mean, they're just so different. But I really actually liked getting into all of their heads because I don't think we would have had the same effect if we hadn't gotten into all of them, because you can't really get into the nuance of how their magic affects them without getting into their actual head, because no one else could understand it.
And especially with some of the like there's that one woman who I can't remember any of their names. This was so long ago, and I have such
I
a
don't
bad memory.
remember names either, but I know which one you're talking about. The one.
Her,
Yes.
yeah. What's her name? Teresa or something?
It's
I don't
like
know.
a
This
ring.
character, her mind is so different than how she acts. So if you weren't in their minds, you would not see how complex and methodical and calculated and all of it. It's just genius. I thought that was such a smart way for the author to get us to know these characters, because and there was another man, what was his name? There was another guy too who was pretty like reserved and whatnot, but he
like in his head, you're like, ooh.
In his head, you're like,
is it? Oh my gosh, Nico? Is it Nico?
Not Nico, I don't think.
Not was Tristan. Callum.
Yeah, he was kind of like, he had a lot going on with it. They all did.
But he was quiet, so like you wouldn't have gotten it if you got a different person's perspective.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that was a good one. And oh yeah, so about that for Babel, like over halfway through, she does like an interjection of Rami's backstory. And I'm like, why did you wait till over halfway through to show us that? Like, you should show us that at the front end, like show us all of their backstories. Like if you're gonna do an interlude of their backstory, that helped. Like after that, I was like, okay, I get him more. I was like, why didn't you do an interlude in the beginning of like all of their histories? Like that would have, I mean, that's more of a showing than telling as much, but still, like at least it would give us something. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I agree with you. This is number one.
I do kind of wanted to get into this a little bit more too, though, because I feel like going into this book, and even while I'm reading it, it seems like it's a book where you're supposed to invest in the characters a lot. Like, I don't know if that's just me and the vibe I was getting, but that's what it seems like you're supposed to get out of this book. And I just didn't. And I feel like it tells us throughout this book, it's like, oh, they're like the best of friends. They're a family. Like they became each other's family. And I was like, you're telling me that, but I'm not really seeing it in the way they treat each other and their actions and even the way they think about each other. I'm like, I'm not seeing that at all. You're trying to tell me that, but I don't feel it.
I honestly even have a post-it note right here, and it says, this is not enough character building.
Yeah.
Something happened where like one of them says to the other one, like, you know why. And there's like emphasis behind it as if like they have gone through a lot together and they know each other really well. And I'm like, we have not seen enough for us to know why, and like to see that relationship of how they know each other so well. And like, I thought at first they were doing a good job with like Rami and Robin at the beginning. But like, as you had said, it's more showing what they're doing. Like, it was like, oh yeah, we went to this place and we did this place and we did this. And I'm like, but like, tell me more about your personalities. Like,
right.
I agree. I think that too. Especially with like how close they all are.
That's what she says, they're close, but I don't feel their closeness. Like,
no.
I don't even want to say it, but like Six of Crows, you read that and you're like, I feel that found family. Like, well, I would expect that out of this book, but I didn't get it.
Mm-mm. I mean, I thought that like Robin, for instance, was obviously the most in-depth of a character, but he kept frustrating me. But I think this was the point though. Like, he would have moments of being like, okay, my whole character is going to change and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And then like a page later, he'd be like, I forgot about that. It's okay. We're going to know. And I know that was like the point of it, but it happened so many times where I thought he was going to have some big character arc and then he didn't, over and over again, that I was like, even his character, I was like, come on, dude, like, I don't know. I think that I didn't feel that intensity other than like there were some beautiful, they weren't quite paragraphs, but like segments of lines where she would describe the most perfect academia setting of all time. Like I was like, these are some of the best dark academia lines I've ever read. But as you said, it was all about like just saying like these were the golden days of us all being close and like all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, but show me that. Like I want to see your interactions. Like even the Secret History, which I said like wasn't my all-time favorite, but like they would have scenes where they were translating together and they would be going back and forth, and how they talked to one another even in translating was like a big key to their personalities. And this had that too, but like I don't know, Stephanie, what's missing? Why can't we like
I feel like it always had some like underlying thing in their interactions that wasn't just like them being them together and really getting to know them as a group. It's like there was always some other agenda with every single interaction they had with each other. It felt like we weren't just getting to know them and their things. It was always like, oh, this is going to be a thing to show why this did this, or like it's to show that this person doesn't really understand because like, oh, Robin could pass as white, but like Rami can't. And I just feel like there was always something else that was happening with these scenes rather than showing us their relationship. It was showing us something else. My feelings about it, I guess.
And I mean, that's completely fair because in a relationship like that, that's always going to be a factor. The fact that like Letty is white and like which ones are white passing and which ones aren't, like that's always going to be a factor. So I get that that's in the undercurrent of everything. But as you said, like I didn't see the good parts of how they became such a bonded, like family, like found family. Like I know that
they liked each other.
That's the thing. No, like Rami and Letty were constantly fighting, and I thought maybe they were like secretly. Can you calm down? Goodness. I think that like they were. I thought that they were like secretly having like a romance that wasn't being shown, and then like, but like that wasn't the case. It was just that they were just fighting all the time, and I'm like, okay. So then, I know she kept saying lines about how it was kind of like them against everybody else. They were taken from their homes, they were put here, and you have no other choice but to bond and find comfort and solace in each other.
Yeah.
But as I said, I'm like, I want more interactions. Like even in, I don't mean to keep referencing Secret History, but that was like the first Dark Academia. When they had those like parties. Remember?
Yeah, when they like go to the rich house and like go and just party together and
I'm like, can we get one of those? Like you would say that you would all have tea and do homework in like Rami's waiting room, or what's that called? Like sitting room. Yeah. Can we see that? Like show me them doing homework and chatting and having tea and stuff. Like I want those interactions. I'm so relieved it's not just me because I was like, why am I so disconnected from you?
Like, I was reading this and I was like, you're saying how much you guys love each other and stuff, but in particular, I did not see any of them liking Letty one bit. It was like they hated her the whole time and just tolerated her because they had to.
Which, like, fair. But, like, show me that.
Don't pretend like it's something that it's not, because, like, it's clearly they don't like her.
Yeah. I think it was, and I'm pretty sure Arfpong said this a few times, like, it was odd because on sometimes it would be like, oh, it was a friendship of necessity, basically, and like proximity to one another. But at the same time, like, then I don't buy it if you say we actually love each other, like as a found family, if like it was just for convenience, you know, like because you had to be around each other.
Like, I don't know. It honestly felt like none of them actually really liked each other beyond the fact that they were in the same cohort. Like maybe Robin and Rami could have been friends besides. But none of the other relationships I felt like I got any kind of anything out of to think, oh, these guys actually are a found family and would like, I don't know, like go to bat for each other and die for each other and they love each other. So like, I didn't get that out of any of them except maybe Robin for Rami, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even get like Rami for Robin, but just Robin for Rami.
I think that this one had like I loved these, like, I didn't think all of them were compatible as best friends. Like, again, it's the same thing where like regardless of if you actually like each other or not, when you're in the same class and you're only with one another all the time, you have to become at least somewhat friendly. Like that's how we have all of these books. But like there were some characters in this one that I was like proven that they would go to bat for the other one, you know, like over and over. And I'm like, yeah, you guys, like I really loved this friend group. Like they were flawed as well, and none of them were perfect, and they were a hot mess as well. But like I liked this friend group probably. I don't know. I liked all of them, but Letty, obviously. But like that's understandable. I don't think we're really supposed to love Letty,
I
but
think Letty had a lot of nuance though. Like where I get it, like she's not a likable character. We don't like her, but she was one of the more interesting characters because she had a lot of depth to her because her trauma was different than the others. Like she just had a lot of nuance to her character, which I think was important to this book. Like you needed to have that character that you just didn't quite, she wasn't the same, right? Like she was very different. And I think that she's kind of similar to like the Secret History characters where they are different, like they're nuanced. There's so much going on. Even if you don't like them, like it's still a character you can deep dive into and be like, okay, let's look at these motivations. Let's look at like what she's thinking, how her brain's working. Because I feel like the other three are fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
And like you get their motivations, their like feelings towards things, those types of things. There's not quite as much to be like, why on earth are you acting how you are? Like, what is going on in your head?
Right. She had a lot of, yeah, like you said, it wasn't as straightforward with her.
Yeah.
Oh, and that was the other thing I wrote about Robin, though. I will say I thought that his contradictions that he felt throughout the whole book was so understandable and well written. I thought that was because I mean, I'm sure that has been written many times, but I don't read that often where there's so much exploration about both sides equally. And especially in his situation of him like feeling one way and then feeling the other way. Like, for example, I don't think this is a spoiler just to say that, like, obviously we know Babel isn't as perfect as it seems it is. And so him being like, I love Babel. It is my entire life. I hate it. It is terrible, you know, like, and that's the thing that so many people try to choose, and that's not real life. Two things can be true at the same time, even if they're the exact opposite. And showing that so well and in such a good, understandable way with Robin, I thought was so good to read about. And it was just so well done. So I thought that like that element of Robin's character of like being pulled both ways and being torn and constantly. And I know that I had said earlier it was frustrating because it kept seeming like he was going to make an arc and he didn't. And this is what I mean, how it's understandable why he didn't. But it was still, as a reader, you're like, ah. But yeah, it was, I thought Robin obviously had the best character work, but I thought that the Robin and Rami friendship too was really good. Yeah,
I Robin by the end, like I know you're not to the end yet, but once you get the end in there, then his character, I feel like you've got a lot more to talk about after. So.
I'm so curious because it could, to me, I'm like, it could go either way with him. Like it could go either way. I have no idea what's gonna happen. So I'm excited.
Finish soon.
I plan on reading it today. I'm like, I've got like less than 200 pages left. So I'm like, I've got to finish this today. It's also because I feel like I've been reading it for like 84 years.
It took me a while longer than I thought too. I thought I would bust through it, and it did take me a little bit longer than I expected.
Yeah, it's a slow. I think the other thing while we're talking about Babel, the other thing that I had written is that like I for the record, I know I'm saying critical things, but like I think this book is fantastic. It's it's phenomenal. These are not like I could not do any, like I couldn't even write a single sentence like she does. Like this is such a good book. But as we're talking about like dark academia, I had put that like it doesn't fit the formula of like presenting a mystery at the start and then you go along with the plot. And she kept referencing like this was the last of our wonderful days, or like, oh, before everything went wrong. But then it would be 200 pages and nothing had gone wrong. And I'm like, you got to give me something here. And I just thought that like the pacing was a little odd, because like you would go and they would just be in school, and there was like no conflict whatsoever, and it was just all of them in school. And then I remember there was like one set of pages where like 2 years went by basically. And then there was like, and then Hermes would come in and then they'd go away, and like the party would happen. I'm like, what was the point of this party, when like, I don't know, like I just felt like the pacing was a little odd, because I was like, what is drawing me along to this? Like, where's the you keep mentioning that there might be drama someday, but I'm like, where's the drama?
Well, and I think and this is just my opinion. Again, I absolutely adore this book too.
Yeah, it was amazing.
But I think we referenced these were the last of our golden years too soon.
Yes.
Like it just feels like she acted like this was the end, and then we just kept going and going and going and going. I'm like, but so that wasn't really the end.
Not for a while.
Yeah, so I think she referenced it too soon, and I think that threw off the pacing, because your expectations were set up and then they weren't met. So it was almost a little bit frustrating because of that. I think if it hadn't been done that early, it probably wouldn't have been quite as frustrating, in my opinion.
Now, even still, it was fun to read people, and obviously you and I like academia, so it was fun to read it. So as I said, these are minor complaints in the scheme of things, because this book is just genius. But that was something, like I said, like I had been saying that, like, I feel like it's almost putting me in a slump, because like it's so long, and like that's what I liked about In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. Every chapter was like boom, 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 something happened. Like you find out a new piece, you figure out a new thing, and like that's easier for me to go through. Whereas with this one, I was like as you said, they referenced that quite early, so I kept waiting for something to happen. And it was always just like, no, they're just taking a test, they're just studying, they're just doing this, and I'm like, where is it?
I know, I agree. I feel the same.
Yeah.
Actually, that was interesting, because my next thing I was going to have us rank them on was like pacing, because I feel like in Dark Academia, pacing can be really hard.
Yeah.
Because you want to really get everyone into that feeling, that university, like you really want to like dive into that vibe, what's happening in every day-to-day life for them. But you also can't make your book too boring. So.
I know my number one for, oh wait, we're going from the bottom. Okay, wait, from the bottom.
You can just start at number one if you want. That's fine.
Oh, I think one of the fastest paced books I've ever read was They Never Learn. Like, it was tiny chapters, and every chapter basically ended on a cliffhanger. So like, I think that was some of the fastest pacing. Sorry.
In all reality though, I feel like They Never Learn and In My Dreams I Hold a Knife have the fastest paced books. I feel like it is because they are almost borderline a different genre though. Like they have so much more thriller aspects to them than Dark Academia. So I think that's why they can be paced so much quicker.
I would agree. I think one of the slowest paced of all was this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think some of it too was the jumping back and forth between the past and the present, because I got really invested in the past, and then they jump us to the present, and I just didn't really care about the present. So I was like, okay, now I have to get through these chapters in order to get back to the part that I like. So that threw me off for pacing of that one.
I liked the present, but as I said, I felt like they were totally different books. Like I would have read the present as more of like a contemporary with eerie vibes, kind of.
More of like a thriller, yeah.
Yeah, but then you go back into the other one, and it's like, it was a very different thing. So it's weird, because like overall I have such like warm feelings towards this book. Like I love this book, because
I had so much fun with it.
I did too. Like, but it did take me so long to read. That's actually probably how I feel about this too, is like this would probably be my next one in pacing.
This is my next one for pacing too.
Look at that, we're twins. So I have such good warm feelings about these books. These are such good books, but like the pacing is, you got to be ready for that.
And my next one, I think this might surprise you, is actually this one, even though this is one of my absolute favorites.
Me too.
Yeah. I feel like the pacing, I binged it in a day, which I think helped significantly with the pacing on this.
Whoa.
Because if I hadn't, I think I would have had more problems with the pacing of this one, because there is that weird section in the middle where like he's freezing to death.
Okay, when I tell you though that when I think back to this book, that's the first thing I think of every time. I don't know why. Like she spent so much time on him being cold in the snow and freezing, and she was so visceral with it that every time I think about this book, I just think about him in the cold every time.
So it's like, I get, if I didn't binge this one, I think I would have had more issues with the pacing. And then I think I'm actually going to go with this one next. So I think this might be where we differ. I think you're.
I don't know. I think these two are kind of tied for me.
I think this one I probably had the best pacing for me, but I do think actually a lot of it came from the fact that it switched between characters a lot, which is different because I feel like sometimes that throws me off of the pacing, but I think this one did really well with it because you got so deep into their heads that it was really entertaining to jump back and forth. So I think that's kind of how I like to go with them.
Honestly, I feel like these were equal to me because I agree, but sometimes it got a little long. Like I kept wanting to know where they were going to go with this because you were spending so much time like mentally with them. And then this one is slow building as well, but I felt like, you know how we were just talking about how like I want to see their friendship building and stuff and like the parties and stuff. There were parties and even just like studying and doing different things. Like I felt like it kind of like progressed the story along, even in just like helping build their relationships and like understand who like their relationships. So like I like this one. And this one also benefits from the whole like going back and forth in time as well. Like this one, because like you start off and one of the characters is an adult and then he tells the story about what happened. So the going back and forth too, you knew something was, well, you actually know from the beginning what happened considering, and you're like trying to then figure it out. So I don't know. I thought that these two were probably on equal footing for me. Wait, what am I doing? There we go. And I agree. I think the two like more thrillers were super fast paced. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife and They Never Learn, I think I read those in almost one sitting.
Yeah, they just were very readable. Yeah. Super easy.
Such a good stack of books. Like I know you aren't as much of a winner of all these as me, but like man, I
all of them but one. So
see, it's funny because that's this one for me, which is like one of your favorites. Like this one, I need to reread it because at this point, I think I have a better appreciation for Dark Academia. This was my first. No, that's a lie. If We Were Villains was my first one, but this was my second one. And so I think like I really need to reread this because I think I'm going to like it a lot more the second time I read it. So I kind of like, I feel bad because I think I'm going to like it a lot more now.
Yeah, I loved it. But I don't know. I get it. It has, I can completely understand if someone says, I absolutely hate The Secret History. I'm like, yep, 100%. I see that. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. So, but
see, now if somebody were to say that they hated If We Were Villains, I would be like, you hated it? Really? Like, you hated it? Like, I don't know. I think If We Were Villains is probably like my favorite. And I get why you would find it boring or not like it, but like to hate it, I'd be like, oh, at least we have some redeemable characters here.
If they hated it because of how pretentious it was, I could see that.
Dark Academia, literally,
yeah, you don't like Dark Academia
is pretension all the way. Like, let's make that clear. All privilege, all pretension, all snoot. Like, well, no, because like the Babel characters aren't snooty, but
they are a little bit. I mean, do you remember when Robin went to the party and he's like, I'm actually better than all of you?
He was like, I thought that was a good character growth moment.
Oh, I loved that moment. Like, it was so good. But I mean,
that's true. He was like,
a little bit. Like they do think they're better. And I mean, in ways they are.
They
They're very smart,
are.
very accomplished. They're worth so much money. They get like all their things given to them, their stipends, like
yeah. And they're not,
yeah.
how do I say this politely? They're not as terrible people. Let's say it that way. Because that group of people were very terrible and annoying, and at least they're not. They're just doing their thing. So, yeah. I thought the Atlas Six was all over the place with like characters of if they were like good or bad. But as you said, like since we're in their head, I get why they are. Like even the ones who were arguably like worse, you're like, I kind of get it a little bit, you know?
Like, yeah, I agree.
Man, we are so on the same team with this stuff.
Should we rank the books? Let's see what order we rank them in. Like the actual, like overall, what is your least favorite to favorite?
No. Like not Dark Academia, just in general?
Just like book, like yes.
Okay.
And but do give the caveat of I don't think this is actually the best in the Dark Academia, but I love it. So my least favorite, is this one. Like obviously this is my like least favorite. We've discussed it. I don't like how it feels so immature and the way things are dealt with. Like I think it's completely ridiculous that the brother of this murdered girl somehow lures these people out into the woods and is like, I know that one of you killed her and you have until this time to tell me who did it. And I'm like, what are we, literally in high school with A texting us? Like, no, that's dumb. So I hated that, like super corny, like, oh, it was just so cringe to me. Although I did think that the story was fun, I did guess what happened way, way, way early, which
you did?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not for once. Normally I do
very little twisting right at the end. I was
like,
oh
no, wait, that's not true. I guessed it pretty early too. That is true. But like,
which I don't hold that against books, but it does sometimes affect my enjoyment. Sometimes I don't care, but in this one I was like, didn't everyone see that coming? So
I mean, I felt like it was not really trying to hide that because like it's pretty stereotypical. Like, I don't know. Like I just like I felt like I don't know. I have an opposite opinion and I loved that book. I thought it was so fun. Like it was not realistic. No, not at all. Like I was like, there's no way.
Well, I mean, it wasn't
like they're not gonna lure them all out.
Realistic, but it was like cringy bad. I was like, oh no, can't do that.
I liked it a lot. I thought that it was like
I'm glad you liked it.
I don't know. Like I'm so excited. I have her other book that's new, The Last Housewives. And I cannot wait to read it because I loved this one so much that I'm just like, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't say this yet, but I'll say it now. I wouldn't like necessarily say that like when I say I loved it, I'm not saying like, does it touch at all like Babel or Atlas? No, it doesn't. It doesn't touch them in like greatness. But this was a different kind of book for me. I don't really read thrillers that much. I don't really like thrillers as often. Like, I don't know. I thought that this one, though, it was so interesting to see where it was going to go. So, like, yeah, I can't wait to read her new one. I'm so excited. But, like, I will say at first I did have that problem in this one that you were talking about in If We Were Villains, where, like, I couldn't remember who was who.
Yeah.
There were so many characters and a lot of them are all alike in some ways because they're like all just rich snobby kid. Well, they're not all rich, but like I don't know. I just at first but once I got a handle on who everybody was, I was like, okay, this is fun. Let's have a good time. So I think I gave this like 4.5 stars. Like I think like I liked it that much. So
I'm glad because I'm pretty sure this was one of my choices. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Was it? Oh, that is so funny. I think that this was one we read on our own, right? No, this wasn't a book club read.
No, it wasn't a book club. It was just me and you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess this would be like for fans of like things that are just like over the top and ridiculous, and like you don't like the people and you might be able to see it coming, but like you just kind of want to see this messy group and see what happens, because you do also go from past to present, back and
Yeah.
forth. So like it's interesting to see where they are now and then where they were then. And what I loved was the main character's perspective on how she wanted to seem perfect and how she's like, I'm not like I used to be. Because I'm like, that's such a relatable feeling. Like if you're going to like a high school reunion or something and you were not who you actually wanted to be when you were younger, and now you think that you're more successful or better off, and you just like really want to show that, but then all these little things kept happening that would disrupt it, and she's like like I thought that she was funny. I thought it was fun. But yeah, it's definitely, they like, people keep saying like an addictive thriller. That's how I felt. Like I didn't want to stop reading. So yeah, it's not dark academia though. Definitely not.
What was your least favorite one then? Because that's my least favorite one. What was yours?
Oh, Stephanie, you're killing me because these are all so good.
I know. I feel like I want to make a disclaimer to like the people watching back that by putting these in order, it's not that any of them are actually bad. Like,
No.
except for me, I didn't really like this one. This is
Yeah.
the only one that I'm like, this is clear for me. This is at the bottom. But the rest of them are all like 4-star books. Like, they're actually all really, really good. So, ranking these, this is not saying this book is at the bottom of like lists. We just picked good books.
All right, I'm gonna hurt you now on accident. I'm not trying to hurt you, but I think my next least favorite one would be this.
That's your least favorite one.
Yeah, I need to reread it. As I said, I think I'm gonna like it a lot more rereading it. But as of what I know now, I would probably have, because like I would say the ones on the lower end for me would probably be these two. But I thought this was such a good time. I loved like a lot of the stuff, even though it was slow and it was odd, the juxtaposition of the two stories. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, this one holds a really special place in my heart, and this one doesn't really hold a special place in my heart. So I feel like I'd have to put it like this one as my next bottom, and then maybe this one. So
yeah. I get it though. Like I said, I get if people say they don't like The Secret History. Like that's one book that I love. And if people say they don't like it, I'm like 100% see it. Like we're good.
You
Like
read it in one day. That's such an interesting idea. I'm wondering if I could do that too, and if that would impact it.
Yeah, I loved it. It was so good. And I feel like I didn't get pulled out of the story is one of the big things about it, is because I feel like you almost need to be in it the whole time, because when you get out, like it's not fast enough, I think, that you can get back in super easily. It is a slower paced book. So,
but then when you stopped reading and you came back to reality, were you like, ew, these people are terrible?
I was like, oh my gosh. Like,
what world have I been in for the past
happened? It was so crazy.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, I think my next one would be Plain Bad Heroines. And like you said, I think a lot of it was the past and the future just not going well with me when I was reading it. Like it just, I didn't care as much about one of them. And I just felt like they didn't match as well as I would have liked. We had these like social media like people in the future, and it just like didn't fit with the past. So this one is going to be my next one, even though I loved it. Like you said, I had so much fun reading this book, and I really really liked it, particularly because I was reading it like while I was over on the East Coast, which is where it takes place. Like we literally went to Newport and like all those places. So super
I love that vlog. That was like watch that vlog. That was such a pretty, like all the trees and reading it. Like that was that so atmospheric for you?
Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. It was so amazing. Like I wish I could read all my books like that, particularly like the creepy books. Like, oh, it was so perfect.
Like I don't know. I kind of almost try to separate the two stories in my head, even though they do relate. Because like it surprised me. Normally, I'm not a contemporary reader. Like I tend to not like contemporary books if like there isn't something else going on, like a mystery or a thriller or anything. And so I was surprised how much I liked the more contemporary side. Like it didn't bother me. Like I liked the characters. I thought it was interesting. I liked how it would like get creepy and then like I don't know. I actually really liked this one. The funny thing is, even though I preferred the past more, the way the past wrapped up, I thought was didn't make sense. Like I was like, do you
I
remember
know I
like
wanted more.
yeah, and when they explained what was going on and how that happened, I was like, what? Like that didn't make sense. So I just kind of like try to ignore that part and just I don't know, like I don't know. I just it's the thing about this book though is like I've never read anything else like this at
Yeah.
all in any element. Like any element of it. It's so unique and I just like that's why I just have nothing but good feelings about this. Oh my god, perfect. Look at this. Recommended for fans of queer kissing, Victorian romance, ghost stories and Hollywood hijinks. That's exactly like
I
it's
mean, that
exactly
is what it is.
and like I've never read a book that has all of those things in it before. Like it's so
Yeah.
good.
I mean, I always would recommend this though, as like you should read it. It's gonna be different than you expect, but it's really good. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. And
So,
I don't have the book with me, but I would probably put They Never Learn next.
me too. I just feel like I loved reading it and it was so fun. Like it was so much fun. And if someone were to ask me of like, hey, what's a really fun dark academia? I'd be like, that's your best bet for like a fun dark academia.
Is it Dark Academia though?
I
I
think
guess
it
the
does pretty
girls were
decently.
doing some studying and stuff, but I feel
Yeah,
like they
because
didn't study very often.
I think it's a little different though, because the majority of it is from a teacher's perspective. Like when someone is older, which you don't study as much there.
Yeah.
But I do think it does get a lot into the dark, like the academia side of like getting grants and like promotions and like the way the politics of academia works. I think it does that really well.
Sorry, I'm thinking of that one scene that makes me violently angry with some
Yeah.
university people. Yeah, I would agree. And I guess that actually kind of reminds me of some scenes in If We Were Villains, like when they're just at these parties with like their cups and just chilling, and that was what the professors were all doing together.
Yeah.
So it is, yeah, you're right. That's a good other perspective, the
Right.
professors of it. Yeah, I thought that was like one of the most fast-paced books I've ever read.
It
Like it was
was
just
so
constant.
engaging. Like you had to know what happened. I thought it was
I
great.
know.
I think
And then
that the twist you saw coming a little bit, but it was enough.
no, I didn't. I didn't.
I feel like I didn't get it until super close, which is, I think, actually really good writing where you can either you don't guess it, but then you see the clues later, or you guess it like really close to when the reveal is. Because
Well,
that kind of shows that they
yeah.
led up to it, which I think is something that I need for twists to be good, is like you need to have like technically been able to guess it. And if you were to read it again, you'd see it. I love those twists. Whereas,
That's
like, if I read the book again, I would be like, how did I not see this? But I didn't. And I think that's what makes the twists really good.
And it was so smart because I had started to suspect, but then something happened that made it like threw off my set. Like I did
Mhm.
not know because I was like, oh, okay, well then that can't be what's happening because of this. But then it was
Right.
just like a red herring, and I was like, I just thought it was really smart. And like I tend to not like to mention that there are twists in books, but like this one I think is like what gets you to want to read it if
Well, I
you
think a
find
lot
out
of
that like this has a twist that was so good.
I honestly, I feel like it's not necessarily a spoiler to say there's a
No.
twist in books, because I feel like almost every book has a twist. Like
Yeah.
that it just happens. I think sometimes it's spoilers to say like the endings twist or like really go into
And then
stuff.
you're looking for it.
But I feel like
Yes,
almost all books have twists, and particularly ones that you're going into that you know are thrillers. Like thrillers have twists. That's just like the
exactly.
nature of the book.
Well, and
The
in
whole
this one,
genre.
I think it's like that's what made me wanna read it. Because like
Mhm.
I said, I don't really read thrillers very often, but when they said like there was a twist that was like, "Oh, wow, that was not expected," I was like, "Oh, I wanna know what happens." Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I wanna know." And so in this one, I think that like that was what well, also the plot piqued my interest because like that
Yeah.
plot though.
I like the plot. I'm like,
That
it's
was a
like
good
that TikTok sound where it's like, I support women's rights, but I also support women's wrongs. I'm like, yeah, yes, I do.
Perfect. That should be like the tagline for this book.
It should. Oh my gosh, if I did TikTok, I would totally make that sound with that book because
You
it's
should put it on like an Instagram reel.
I totally should do it because it's like that is that book. Like it fits it 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Like all the bad stuff she does, you're like, I'm 100% behind you. Like
I loved that live show talking about that book because like it was interesting to see the different perspectives because like some of us were a little more ethical and then I feel like you and I were like, no, I support her.
like no.
We're like, I mean, who else is gonna do it? The police? No, like
no, they don't care.
There has to be consequences. Like, yeah, it was really funny because I was like, am I a bad person?
Oh, that was a good book.
I like that one. Again, I don't know. I don't think of that when I think of Dark Academia, but like it as a book, as a thriller, I'm like
okay. Like, I mean, I feel like it's on the periphery of Dark Academia. Like it skates in there, but it's not like what you think of when you're like, this is Dark Academia. Yeah.
It was good though. I liked that one. I liked all of these books, man. These were good.
I think we have four more to rate. Each of us do.
4? I've only got 3.
Oh, so I still haven't rated Babel, Secret History, If We Were Villains, and the Atlas 6.
Oh, I did 2 and 1 because I did like these 2 are kind of tied for me.
Yeah, you did do 2
so what's your next one then? You're
I think this is gonna hurt you. I'm sorry. Like, I get it. Love it though. Like, I would reread this book, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. But I think this one will be my next one. I didn't quite feel for it, and I think part of it, though, honestly, is I had literally just read The Secret History, and they are very similar.
That's hard to do.
Yeah,
yeah, I can totally see that. I had read this one like a year before I read that. So like and maybe that is the problem. Maybe that's why ours are reversed because that like could be that's probably likely because I loved If We Were Villains and then The Secret History I was like, well, this doesn't hold a candle to If We Were Villains to me. So
and that
like,
was me reading this one where I'm like, I thought The Secret History was better.
Exactly. That might actually be like an interesting thing to note of like whichever one you read first, maybe is that going to be your favorite?
Or if you read them too close together. Because I do feel like if I'd read The Secret History and then given myself like a year so that I wasn't so already in that one because it was amazing. I loved it, right? Yeah. And so if I would give him like a year and if I read this one now, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more just because I wouldn't have been like, I just read this. So.
Well, and I think that it's also what you find interesting because with If We Were Villains, I called it like soft version of The Secret History because like these are kind of more like cinnamon rolls and this situation happens that's terrible and like in The Secret History like it's calculated, like they are bad people. And in this one it's more just like a bad situation happened and how do you deal with that, you know? Whereas like I feel like the characters, this is a lot like softer in the intentions and cruelty and like terrible people. It's not as bad at all. So it's not probably as interesting as The Secret History for some people in that way. Cause
I feel like that once you get the shock value of The Secret History, like how messed up it is, it does make them feel a little bit chiller. And so I don't know. I think I was already in that mode. So I feel like if I would have read The Secret History when I did and then waited a year and read If We Were Villains, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more.
I think that's probably likely. I'm trying to find this thing that I said to you where why are you so hyper, girl? Dark Academia is very interesting for her. Okay, I found it. So I told you this too. I was like, if you read If We Were Villains, so just like a PSA for anyone who loves this book, or even if you don't love it and you just want like a closed ending, if you go on Goodreads, there is when you go to like the community reviews, there's someone who put in a link to a fan fiction, and it's like just a one thing. It's not like tons of chapters. Can you calm down? My cats are just so hyper right now. And the person's name is Chai, Chai, with a heart. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a link to like a fan fiction. It's canon for me. Like, this is how the book ends. Like, because it ends on kind of, like you can imagine where it's going to go, but it doesn't explicitly tell you. And the person who wrote this fan fiction is called What is Woven into the Lives of Others by Hello Earthlings. It's legit. Like, I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly how this book should have ended. And I think like that just also made me love it even more because I got that like closure, It was great. Yeah. So that's like always what I say. If you read this book and you liked it, go read that fan fiction. It's just like a page about like how it would wrap up. It was great.
How they thought it would wrap up.
How they thought it would wrap up. Exactly. Obviously, it's not legit because it's just fan fiction, but it's just like, it breaks my heart in the best way. And that's what I think I loved about If We Were Villains. You know how I was saying that like the Secret History, they're all just terrible?
Yeah.
Like, If We Were Villains, like I actually root for these people. And I'm like, come on, like.
It's true. Yeah.
Here, you talk. I'm going to try to get my cat to stop making sounds.
Okay, so for my next one, I don't know. I feel like
this is getting tough.
So hard because we're at the final three. And we have, so you have If We Were Villains and I have The Secret History but these are my top three. Oh my gosh. I think this might be an unpopular opinion. Don't come at me, but I think this one's going to go in the number 3 spot.
Me too.
Okay. Yeah. Like I loved it. And I think that this book was so good and so well written. Like, it's phenomenal, but I just didn't get quite what I like. I feel like I wanted a little bit more out of this book going into it. And some things were done so well. And some things I'm like, I feel like more time should be put into that. Like the characters in particular, but.
Yeah. I feel like it could have also been cut shorter. Like, I don't think it necessarily needed to be 500 something pages long.
Yeah. I think,
I mean, it honestly, could have been if they spent more time, like you said, on the characters.
I think that there was a little too much in the language side of it for me, honestly. I liked how in-depth she was, and I thought it was really, really well done. But I feel like I didn't need that much of the different nuances of the language in order to really like get what she was trying to get across.
I'm pretty sure she either has a master's or a PhD in it. And I think that that's why, obviously, but this is going to sound, I don't know. I don't want to be rude because I study that a little bit. Like, I have a linguistics component of the degree I'm in right now. And like, I feel like it wasn't, I feel like she must have said like 5 times about how when you translate things, you miss things as if it was like a revelation each time. And I'm like, I know, but like, I know, like we have seen that over and over. And I feel like it just like kept hitting us over the head with it. And I understand that was like the aspect of the silver bars and everything, but like I started to actually get bored of the professor's lectures because I was like, I feel like the other professor already said this. Like, I feel like it's really emphasizing that. And I completely get it. Like, that's actually, I'm pretty sure on the side of like the Owl Crate one where it's like.
It's on the Elena Crate one, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I get it. That makes perfect sense. But like, I think it spent too much time explaining that when I'm like, I feel like you already explained it very thoroughly. So, And the other thing that I will say that I struggled with, and maybe it was just me, because I don't read fantasy nearly like you're like the queen of fantasy. Like I read fantasy sometimes, but for me, like I had no idea that this had fantasy elements in it when I bought it. I didn't know that. So when it happened, I
Really?
no, and I wrote on the side and I was like, what? This has magic in it? And so that was exciting. But then like I felt like it didn't talk enough about the impact of that magic on the rest of the world. And okay, I know that's the whole point. The whole point is colonialism and stuff, but like if these bars existed, I feel like that would have much stronger impacts than just like, oh, rich people are using them for stupid little household things, which is like, again, I know that that's the point, but I wonder if that is actually the case, if that was a real thing that existed. Like magic is real. Oh my God, we can
Right.
actually do magic. And it's not really, it's just like confined to this area.
Yeah.
And yes, that makes sense because of the British Empire, but also like the other countries of the entire world are not trying to like take that from them. They're not trying to like figure out the magic on their own. Like there wasn't really, I mean, I'm not to the end yet, so maybe there does end up having that happen, but like there wasn't really a big mention in towards the whole first, like I'm at 360 pages or something of like what are the Americas doing? What is like, because China was mostly their big issue was like the opium trade and stuff. And I'm like, but wouldn't they be trying to get these bars more? Like, I don't know. To me,
But they
I
already
just
have the silver, right? Like you have silver. They do.
and then like so then there wasn't really any mention of what it like aren't other countries trying to make magic with it or no? Like maybe it's just the fact that they're not like linguists enough, like they don't know the like the other, because that's the point of Babel, like they know many languages to be able to make those matched pairs. But I was like, why aren't there more babbles everywhere else? And you're smirking, which makes me think that maybe that's the end of the book. So if that's the end of the book, just ignore
I'm not going
everything.
to say anything. I feel like we'll have to chat about it a little bit after you've finished.
Yeah, just ignore everything I'm saying. But so far, that's what I'm feeling. I'm like, okay, but like, I feel like the fact that there's magic, this is not being made as big of a deal as it should be. Like, that's crazy that there's magic. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. That was odd for me. I'm like, this is so casual about this. So,
I love it.
no, it's so interesting. And there's so many things that you could talk about. Like, there are so many avenues. Like, you would talk about, like, oh God, there's so many things like opium. You could talk about slavery. You could talk about the colonialism. You could talk about language. You could talk about like there's like a million different things that you could talk about this book. So like it's so complex and thorough and interesting that like
it's good. It's okay. We're down. We're both down to our last two.
This is hard.
I know.
Okay, what's our second to last? Go for it. You go. Well, we'll hold them up at the same time. What's your second place?
Second place.
There we go.
I feel
like
Atlas
6 is your favorite?
Which is weird because I feel like when I first read it, I would not have chosen that.
That's
but
so...
I feel like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, this is magic, which is completely my wheelhouse. It has that like Library of Alexandria feel, which I absolutely love. And I like the characters are so interesting and different. And I don't know. Plus, like, I want to read this again. And weirdly enough, I don't feel like I need to reread this. I feel like my first time reading it was phenomenal. And I don't need to reread it. Like, that was so good. Like, I read it. It was phenomenal. I don't need to reread it. Like, it was just such a perfect first reading of it that I don't know if I'll ever read it again just because I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah. That's actually a really good way to think about it, that this one you want to reread. Yeah. Definitely. I want to reread it. Yeah. We're going to. I can't wait. But my thing is with this one, I thought that the weak part for me was the ending. And I know it's a series, but like the were they even a bad guy? Like the situation that was going on behind the scenes that was supposed to be a secret and stuff. Like I felt like it was just like info dumped at you. And I was like,
it
I
was.
wish it was like explained a little bit less of like an info dumpy way. And so like I think I gave this like 4.5. But like I'm curious to read the edited one and see
Me too.
if that changed at all or anything. Cause like I just felt like the ending was a little odd for me to read it just like, okay, this is what was actually going on. I'm like, wait, what?
I agree. And I think that in all fairness, this one's writing would not be number one on the list. Like the writing in this was not the best compared to others. I would put, honestly, If We Were Villains, Babel, and Secret History above this one for actual like writing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, what would be your favorite writing one?
My favorite writing one, I think, actually would be The Secret History. I just think that she did so well at making you just feel things throughout this book. Like it was constantly making you feel some way about stuff. I felt like even when you were just sitting there listening to them talk, you're like, oh my gosh, you guys are messed up. Or there'd be like really crazy things that they would do. And I'm like, holy cow, how did you even think of doing that? You guys are insane. Or just like sitting there in the cold, like freezing, it made you feel so bad for him, even though you're like, you're actually not that good of a person. Why am I feeling so bad for you? But they do, and then they'll do nice stuff for each other. Like when he comes and rescues him, and I'm like, oh, I actually really kind of like him right now. And I'm like, no, this is a psycho killer. Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. I just feel like the way she messed with emotions in here and that, like the way she wrote these characters was just phenomenal. But I think this one probably would be second on writing because it's also so good.
Can I throw a wild card at you for writing?
Yeah.
I like the writing in this one.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that this one
it was funny.
And it was almost conversational sometimes. Like, I don't know. I really liked the writing on this one too.
I think it was very witty and it had a lot of like satire in it that I thought was super well done.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, like I just haven't really read anything like this. I just loved this one. I need to reread this one too. Can you tell I like to reread books? Yeah.
I honestly love all of them. The weird thing, like I feel like I wouldn't reread In My Dreams I Hold a Knife or the They Never Learn.
They Never Learn. Yeah.
I don't feel like I need to.
But hard to reread in general. Like I don't really think thrillers have a lot of rereadability.
I don't think I would reread The Secret History just because I don't want to have different feelings because I loved it so much the first time, which I know is weird because I would reread If You Were Villains. I would absolutely reread that one. Yeah. But I just feel like if Secret History is just in this perfect little happy spot up here and I don't want to change anything.
See, that's my number one. That's how I feel about this. Except I have reread this and I loved it both times. Although I had a good time in The Secret History, I also wrote in this book and I was like translating all the Latin and it was fun like to go and like whenever they would say something I would like try to look it up online and translate it, and I was able to every time. Clearly people have done this before. This is a very beloved book, and that was fun to like go through and do that with them. So I could see that for sure, that The Secret History was a great time. Yeah.
Okay.
So good. I spoiled my number one, so that makes your number one. Yeah. What's yours? It was, yeah.
Which is crazy. Like, I feel like I never would have thought I would put this at number one, but as time goes on, it's just moved up because I think about it. I want to reread it. I'm so excited for the sequel. The fact that it is a series might have something to do with it because like
you're a big series there. Yeah.
I love serials, but
that's so true because like I found that I keep thinking about it too.
Mm-hmm.
And like, how does that work? Like that was so, because at the time, as you said, like I was like, oh, that's okay. But then like now I'm like, I want to reread it. So yeah. I definitely thought that this was a good one. And this came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like I hadn't even heard of it. I just saw this on a table at Barnes and Noble. And I think I had maybe heard somebody say like the Library of Alexandria. And I looked at the back and it talks about Alexandrians in the library, and I was like, I don't even know what else this is about. That's
right.
we're done. You had to say Library of Alexandria, we're done. Like,
I know. That was me too. I'm like, I'm in. Yes.
I feel like it's like for readers. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, because I don't know that you would have to like fantasy to like this
I
book.
don't think you would. I think it helps, and I think it's a really good dark academia for fantasy lovers, but I think you could still like it even without, just kind of like with Babel, where the fantasy is definitely there and it's important, but it's not the only thing, and it's not actually really the biggest focus, which like it is because that's what the characters are focusing on, but the actual story a lot is focused like on the characters and the politics behind all these things. So
And there were very unique characters. It was hard not to with like the magic stuff. But well, isn't even magic? It's almost like sometimes paranormal too. Like it's just odd. Like they're I guess it's like abilities more,
yeah,
you
it's
know? Like
abilities.
yeah, because like it's not like wand wielding magic, you know, like it's more like X many than
Yeah.
anything else. I feel like yeah, that was
Yeah.
really good. I think, like I said, my number one is this. This one, I just absolutely, I like Shakespeare a lot. And it was written like in the acts, just like Shakespeare, you know, like
Yeah.
it's got the characters and I liked these characters. Like I didn't love all of them, but I really felt for them. And like, whereas this main character, like these main characters were very similar. Like they kind of just like things happened and they were like, oh god, like they were kind of a little slightly removed from all of this and a little more like innocent than the others, I would say.
They just
But
weren't the original OG in group. Like everyone else had connections and they
right.
almost felt like they just came in a little bit late.
And they're less messy, I feel like, than the
Yeah.
others are. But
They're
with
more
these
normal people. Yeah.
cared about each other, you know? And I really liked how you started in the future. So like you saw kind of how it wrapped up. The whole
Yeah.
thing. Like you saw how it wrapped up and then you went back in time to try to figure out what had actually happened. And like and I just got like so in love with all their friends and like the group and figuring out who did it and like it was just so emotionally charged a lot of these interactions were and then like how it ends and then like I said reading that like short story about like what they thought the end should be and I'm like yeah that's the end like that's how it should be. It was great. So this one is just like so far nothing has topped this yet, but as you were saying like all of these are so good.
Yeah. I feel like we've had a lot of really good ones. It's been so fun.
That's what I was gonna ask. So like what ones do you think we have left? I know we've talked about A Lesson in Vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't Vita Nostra on that list
Vita
too?
Nostra is on there. Yeah. I do have that one as well.
Atlas 6 and the Atlas Paradox.
Atlas Six and Atlas Paradox. Ordinary Monsters, I've heard some people say is Dark Academia. I'm not positive if it is. I'd have to look into it a little bit more, but I've heard that that is Dark Academia. So I'd be interested in that one.
I saw a list on Goodreads about like Dark Academia, but there was like 300 or something. And I'm like, and I was scrolling through the list and I'm like, these are not all Dark Academia. So,
Right, which is why I'm like, we'd have to read them to kind of tell, because some of them that they say are Dark Academia, like the Maidens, people have said that's Dark Academia. I'm like, that's not Dark Academia. That was horrible.
Sorry, that was a terrible book.
That was the worst book. I hated that book so much.
That was so bad. You want to talk about unrealistic, okay? In My Dreams I Hold a Knife is more realistic than the stuff that
Maidens
happened.
was horrible.
Like there was no way some rando woman was just gonna like walk in on all these crime scenes and like
It was so done. It was so yes.
oh
yes.
my god.
I agree. What else? I think let me go look at my list I made. I don't know if there's new ones that have come out. Ordinary Monsters I've heard is, so I would want to give that one a try and just see if it actually is or not. I think it's along the same lines of the Atlas Six, where it's a like magical-esque school and kind of like Babel and stuff.
Oh,
Where
the
it has,
Ordinary Monsters is?
I think it's yeah, it's fantasy.
Well, that's a long one too, isn't it?
It is long. It's a fantasy one, yeah.
Babel is killing me with the length.
It is long.
Let me see.
The Orchard, I've heard, is Magic for Liars. A Discovery of Witches, which I'm kind of interested to like. I didn't know that that was Dark Academia at all. I don't know why it would be. I don't know anything about it, but I don't know why it's Dark Academia, but I've seen people say that as well.
Interesting.
Neil Gaiman's books being Dark Academia. I haven't read any of Neil Gaiman's that I feel are Dark Academia. I've read several Neil Gaiman's. I've read like Neverwhere, Graveyard Book, Stardust, a lot of his short stories and stuff. And I would not feel that he fits into Dark Academia, even though I absolutely love his writing. So I really do actually enjoy Neil Gaiman a lot. The Magicians and A Deadly Education.
What about did you say the Ancient Nine? I see that on the list.
Yeah, it's on the list. I didn't mention it. I must have missed it. But yeah, the Ancient Nine. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm looking at the list that you made, right? You haven't read Catherine House or Bunny?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God. I can't wait to hear what you think about those.
I do need to read those ones, so we can put that on. Vicious. And then these.
Oh, Vicious you haven't read?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I think you might like that.
I think I probably would. It sounds like something I'd like. And then These Violent Delights, I think, is the other one that's on there that I haven't read.
I am so ready to reread Bunny. Like, I am I was supposed to buddy read it, and like I was waiting and waiting because they were like, oh, I'm getting it from the library. And then I saw them and they were like, oh, I already read it. And I was like, no, I was waiting to read Bunny. I was like, oh, so I'm waiting to reread it because like it is the weirdest mind thing you'll ever read. Like, it's so weird, but I'm obsessed with it. But so many people are. Catherine House is also a 5-star for me, but like I don't think I could ever recommend it to anyone because it's also so strange and like
I like strange though. I don't have a problem with strange. I feel like a book being strange is never a put off for me, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna like it. You know what I mean? It's like you know how some people like if it's strange, I love it. It's just what it is. That's not me. Like I like strange, but I don't necessarily love every strange book.
Yeah, I agree. Catherine House is just very like slow and like dreamy and like hardly anything happens, but you do have weird things and like so many people hated the ending. I loved the ending. Like I don't know, like I can see why people don't, but also like I like to read the author's notes too, and that's kind of really helpful too to like figure out why the author wrote the book, you know? Mm-hmm. Why Mona Awad wrote Bunny, I have no idea because like it's so wild, but like yeah. I am so curious what you're going to think about those.
So what do we want to do for our next one? Do we want to read Atlas 6 Atlas Paradox, or do we want to read a different book that we haven't read? Or like, do I want to read Bunny? What?
Oh my God. If you read Bunny, you have to let me know because I would love to buddy read it with you if you want to. You don't have to though. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I'm just like craving it again.
Well, maybe that should be our next one then. If you're in the mood for it.
The Atlas 6 though, because you're gonna read the Atlas Paradox when it comes out, right?
Yeah, I'm not. I want to read it soon after it comes out, but I'm not. I have to read it day of type person.
Okay. Yeah, I have the pre-order, and that usually takes a while to ship. I just pre-ordered it. Yeah, so it takes a while to ship, so I probably definitely won't get it, but I could do either. Whatever you're in the mood for, I'm good to go. Because like,
I can honestly probably fit Bunny in this month.
It's not that long.
Because it's short. Yeah.
Maybe I'm lying. Well, it's definitely not as long as like Babel. But
right.
Yeah, because we make sometimes like that's why we don't have 12 here because we make it go over a couple months sometimes if they're longer books.
Right.
So Bunny is 307 pages according to Goodreads.
Okay.
But it reads pretty quick because you're just like, am I on an acid trip right now?
Like, is this real? What's happening?
What is happening? I just remember there was a scene at the beginning, well, kind of towards the beginning, and I like put my book down and like squealed. I was like, what am I reading? This is the most uncomfortable situation ever. Like, if you put yourself in their shoes, and you're just like, oh my God. I thought of a fun question.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay, out of all of these books, which one would you want to be in?
Do I get to pick like who I am?
I mean,
I
however
think
you
I
want to
think
interpret
the
that.
Atlas 6.
That's pretty cool. That's a pretty good one.
That'd be
Yeah.
so cool.
I don't even have an answer. I was just curious what you would say.
No,
I
you
would
have to
probably.
give an answer.
I have to give an answer. Oh God. I mean, how could you not pick Atlas 6 though? Yeah, because it's like magic-y stuff. But it's also dangerous though. Would you really want to be there? That and all that danger and stuff?
I don't know.
I mean, you could pick something like this and it would just be like at a fancy college. Whereas and you just get to have a good time. But here
Yeah, but
you got the magic, but you also have the danger.
You do, but I feel like I'd be more into this. Like, I don't care about Shakespeare or Greek. So I think
true. That would be torture for you, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably agree. I mean, Babel would be stunning, but like we know the truth about Babel, so I'm like, nah.
And I feel like I'm a baby too. Like I have very bad anxiety and I like security as well. So I'm like, I don't know if I would like what kind of a person I'd be, and I don't want to.
But you're gonna put yourself in this kind of danger?
Yeah.
She's like, for magic, anything.
Yes, I think I will.
Okay, I have one more question.
Okay.
This is a hard one. You might need a second because I don't know either. Favorite character out of all of these books?
Oh my gosh, I don't remember everyone.
That's true. This is hard, actually.
Why oh my gosh, I have no idea.
There are so many unlikable characters too. That's the problem.
That's the problem. I'm like, I don't really like a lot of these characters, actually.
Not really. Like, even these people, even though they're really interesting, I don't know that I like any of them.
They're just fascinating.
Oh no, I know there was a guy that I liked in this. Was it Nico?
Oh yeah, he was good.
Yeah, I liked Nico.
I did like Nico, and I liked oh my gosh, what's her name in If We Were Villains? She had very different name.
The one who was in the
like
future
chill all the time. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was Meredith, maybe? No, Philippa?
It starts with an F. Yeah, Philippa. Or PH, one of the two.
Yeah, Philippa. Yeah, Philippa was nice too.
Philippa. I liked her too. I think those would be my two picks.
You know, I really like Rami in Babel too.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I think that I really liked how they talked about how he got really good at manipulating, like he said that he was like, if I could make someone either see me as a king or see me as a non-threat or see me as a threat, like he got really good. And then there was that comment about how, but now sometimes I almost get mixed up in my own head and it throws me off about what kind of a person I am. And I was like, that's such an interesting thought process to follow. Like, that was really cool. And I don't know. I like Rami a lot too. He was great. And is it pronounced Victoire?
I think it's Victoire.
Yeah, and like I just don't have enough of her though. That's the thing. Like I really like her as a character, but I just don't know her at all. Like I don't know her outside of the prejudices against her, which I think is a disservice because like I don't want to only know her for how people judge her. Like I want to know who she is as a person on her own. And all that I know is that she speaks French. Like I'm like, I want more time with you.
Yeah.
Gosh. So many characters.
I know.
Next time we should not wait until a year because I will have forgotten.
I've forgotten a lot. I've forgotten so much.
I did too. Not gonna lie. That's why I can't wait to reread the Atlas 6 because at this point I just have like vague memories of it.
Yeah.
But
I also read that one really fast too. So
I think I did too. I feel like it was like a 2-sitting read.
Yeah.
Right? But you read this the fastest?
That one the fastest, actually, yeah, which is crazy. I don't know how.
This has so many pages.
I was coming home from Thanksgiving with my family, and I just read it on the drive home.
Like physically or audiobook?
Both. I like listened while I read because I like, especially when I'm driving, it helps me like focus.
That's awesome.
Well, I was passenger. I wasn't actually driving, but
that is awesome. Yeah, I think that like I'm gonna be sad when we're kind of out of books to read.
no, and I feel like we're gonna have to go into books that are less true dark academia and are kind of dark academia, like The Ordinary Monsters, where I've heard people say it's dark academia, but I'm like, I feel like it's probably going to be kind of dark academia. We'll see though.
Well, it's been a great time so far, and I'm glad we finally got to talk about it. Yay!
I know, this is fun. I think we had a lot of similar opinions on a lot of them, at least. Yeah.
And I think the big well, besides Am I Dreams I Hold the Knife, I think that like that was interesting concept to think of, like maybe it's whichever one you read first, like, or maybe it's like you said, if you read it too close together and you just can't help but compare them.
Yeah,
because they're the most similar of all of them.
They're very similar.
Definitely. Can we just this cover though? I love this cover so much.
Yeah.
Because it's like Shakespeare, you know, like the
skull.
Because there's another one with a sparrow on it, which makes sense. But like, it's so pretty too. But I'm just like, but this one, I can't. And then obviously Babel takes the cake for.
Babel's is gorgeous. Like, this is what it is. Oh, that was so pretty. Okay, well, this is so fun. Anyone who is watching back, thank you for joining. I hope you got some good dark academia recommendations, and we'll see you later. Bye.